Hai, Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera. Kami kini berada di Kairo ataupun di Kaherah, Mesir. Ini adalah merupakan penganjuran buat julung kalinya setelah 2 tahun, iaitu World Urban Forum ataupun Forum Bandar Dunia yang berlangsung kali ini di Kaherah buat kali yang ke-12, dan ini merupakan signifikan buat penganjuran kali ini kerana buat pertama kalinya selepas beberapa tahun penganjuran WUF ianya kembali ke benua Afrika. Apa yang bakal dibincangkan pada tahun ini? Kerana tema akan mengambil kira kepada ianya semuanya bermula di rumah, dan semuanya dapat dilakukan oleh bukan sahaja pihak-pihak pembuat dasar dan juga mereka yang berkepentingan, tapi bermula daripada anda di rumah, dan itu yang menjadi fokus dalam World Urban Forum pada kali ini. Saya ingin bersama dengan Katerina Bezgachina, merupakan Ketua Komunikasi for UN-Habitat. Thank you, Katerina. Nice to meet you again in Egypt. So perhaps for the first thing first, how you can describe the main objective of WUF12 and how it's significant to Egypt and Africa continent as well?
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be back, and thank you for hosting me, and welcome to Cairo. Here we are hosting the 12th session of the World Urban Forum, and as you mentioned, yes, it is a very significant event for us, and I can say that this is so far the biggest, according to the registration numbers, it is the biggest urban forum that UN-Habitat has ever hosted. So we have more than 37,000 people registered to attend. And the significance of this event, I think, is very important because UN-Habitat was set up by the General Assembly back in 2001, and the first forum took place in 2002 in Nairobi, Kenya. At that time, the issues of urbanization were just coming to the agenda, and UN-Habitat believed that it is important to address and to bring different stakeholders to talk about these issues. So now the World Urban Forum is coming back to Africa, where it was born. For more than 20 years it was not happening here, but now it is coming back here, and I think it is very important. It's really a very pivotal moment where we are talking about the need for transformative change, and it is especially needed in African continent, because the continent is rapidly urbanizing, and some of the cities are facing climate-related challenges. We know the global housing crisis is a big on the agenda. So it is very important now that these conversations are happening here, and we are going to discuss and look what could be the solutions, what are the policies, what are the things that we need to really address these challenges. And for that we really need to bring different stakeholders. We need to have coalitions. So the World Urban Forum is this premier platform that discusses urban issues and brings together different stakeholders: national governments, local governments, academia, non-governmental organizations, activists. Everyone is coming here and voicing their concerns and proposing their solutions.
Understanding the theme for WUF12 and perhaps Egypt as a host country for the WUF12, how is it significant and how is it different? Understanding the theme first.
The theme this year is it all starts at home, local actions for sustainable cities and communities. And the theme is actually connected to the Sustainable Development Goals. We are almost, there are 5 years or so left to the 2030, where we need to meet the SDGs. And we know it's the reality that we are behind, and a lot of them are not on track. So it is really important to start looking what can be done. So that's why we have chosen this theme, really to progress and to do something we need to start locally, but not only locally, we need to also work with national governments and other stakeholders, but it can only be together. So things that we are saying here, we really need to do something now together and locally. So we need to start from the bottom and start looking at solutions. And it is at home, but it is also a problem of home, because housing, we know that housing is a big problem, and it's a big problem not only for the global south, but for the global north. We have 2.8 billion people who experience some form of housing problems, inadequacy. 318 million people are homeless. 1.1 billion people live in slums and informal settlements. So housing is also a big problem. And housing can actually be that platform that can help resolve all the other, help make progress in achieving other SDGs. So that's why we are saying that we start at home.
Perhaps you can just share the key insights of what kind of a conversation that we can expect about the sustainability and then for the funding and everything in this World Urban Forum for this year.
I think there are different tracks. So all the events, a lot of events are based on 6 dialogues. So the first dialogue is on housing. The second one is about cities and climate. Then about partnerships and working together. And then about putting people first in the digital era. And the last dialogue is on the loss of home. So there are different events that are happening. If we are talking about sustainability, then a lot of these conversations will be happening during Dialogue 2 when we talk about cities and climate. And also there are going to be conversations about funding. One of the dialogues, I think it's one of the dialogues is called Financing Localization and Localizing Finance. So these are conversations, how do we get finance? How do we attract private sector finance? How do we fund these projects locally? How can cities access more funding, because one of the issues is that cities do not have access to funding. So these are going to be the conversations that are going to be happening in one of the dialogues that talks about finance. And then I think also one of the important sessions is going to be looking at data, how to really get data. Direct data so that we can understand what is the need, analyze this need, and then propose solutions. So yeah, I think these are some of the highlights, some of the things you can expect from this World Urban Forum. And then also talking about Africa, you said, and the focus on Africa, there is going to be an African ministerial meeting where ministers from Africa are going to come together and also discuss and continue their discussions. Earlier in September, there was the first Africa Urban Forum, which also put a lot of issues on the agenda. So they're going to continue these discussions and hopefully then continue them discussing urban sustainability and issues at COP29 in Baku.
How about the public engagement? Because we don't want to be this kind of forum to be so exclusive for the certain people only. How your UN-Habitat play the main initiative to do engagement with youth, with the people, the local people, especially here in Cairo. They're facing a lot of challenges between old and a new city, from the ancient city to the new development of housing, perhaps. How in terms of the public engagement it happens here in WUF 2024?
Yes, I think we also are concerned about that, and we don't want to have event just for the sake of having event. We are looking how the event can be sustainable and how can connect to the city where it is happening. So, for example, at World Urban Forum, just before World Urban Forum started, we had Cairo Urban Week. This was a series of events that was happening in Cairo, in different communities, and where we were really trying to connect with communities, talk about culture, talk about local communities, because a lot of these issues, they do influence the way cities are designed, planned and built. So there was a lot of engagement with local communities during that Cairo Urban Week, and also as part of the legacy of World Urban Forum and discussions on sustainability, UN-Habitat was working with some of the communities. For example, in one of the areas here in Asmarat, we were working with some of the marginalized groups to really have the workshops with them and to bring people to talk about urban planning and urban development and show them in a playful form how that can be done. So some of the workshops were happening with children, some of them with the local residents. So that was all part of the Cairo Urban Week. That was really, the purpose was to connect with the city and the people.
How the current issue, because we're in the region that facing a war, especially in Gaza as well as Lebanon. So for certain people, it's quite sensitive to be touched in this kind of forum. But thousands or millions of people are losing their house and then being the refugees in the neighboring country. Do you think that this part of the issue that will be concerned in this forum for WUF12? Because sometimes in the in the level of UN, I think people neglect or try to avoid to speak about that. How do you foresee about that?
Yes, we are talking about cities and conflict. There is one dialogue that is dedicated. There is one dialogue that is dedicated to how destruction and conflicts and ongoing conflicts are destroying urban life, displacing a lot of people, and how we can rebuild those cities that have been suffering from conflicts. So there is a special track that is called "The Loss of Home," where we are looking at this. We are not looking at particular conflicts because there are a lot of ongoing conflicts and there are a lot of displaced people all over the world, and unfortunately the conflicts and wars are only causing more destruction. So we feel it is very topical, and how we can address it. But of course, we as UN-Habitat, we are a technical agency. We can only look at that from the point of view of shelter and reconstruction, how to then rebuild these cities, how to make life better for people who are displaced. So these are the issues that we are going to address.
Katerina, lastly, beyond WUF12, what's the priority by UN-Habitat for the next 2 or 3 years by promoting the sustainability and livable life in cities?
Well, these are always a priority for us, I think, and we
There's
are going to be
yes. These 2 years?
No, at the moment, UN-Habitat is working on the new strategic plan that will set its new priorities. So the new strategic plan will be from 2026 to 2029. I cannot share more now because this is the work that is in progress, but we are thinking of prioritizing the work, especially focusing on the issues that are most important. The issues of course, climate change, housing, and really financing and trying to find local solutions for sustainability for cities.
Okay, last word from you. What do you expect from WUF12, and what's different? How we can expect the difference from WUF12 in Egypt?
Well, as I said, it is by far the biggest WUF that UN-Habitat held so far. So we have more than 37 people 37,000 people registered, and also I would like to say that we have a record number of ministers, deputy ministers, really people, officials from the governments attending, which is very significant. It means that the authorities are paying attention to urban issues, they are interested and they want to be involved in these discussions. So it means that it is gaining momentum, it is gaining attention, so that's quite important.
Thank you very much. All the best for us. All the best to you, Katerina, for having the best WUF in history in Mesir. Terima kasih. Itu perbualan saya dengan Katerina, Ketua Komunikasi daripada UN-Habitat. Inilah mukadimah ataupun introduction kepada perjalanan World Urban Forum yang lebih besar. Kerana seperti mana dikatakan oleh Katerina sebentar tadi, banyak isu yang perlu dilihat dengan lebih menjelas, dan khususnya bagaimana inisiatif dapat dimulakan oleh bukan sahaja pihak berkuasa, pihak yang membuat dasar, tapi masyarakat secara keseluruhannya. Itu akan saya kongsikan lagi dalam banyak lagi paparan kami. Terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada Turkish Airlines yang memberikan kesempatan dan memungkinkan untuk liputan WUF Ke-12 ini berlangsung dan juga dibawakan kepada anda di seluruh platform kami di Astro AWANI. Kembali kepada rakan tugas di studio.